Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. Today we're working on the Cobra and we're gonna start off by upgrading all of the ignition components. All right guys, I'm bringing you in about midway through this job. I've disconnected the battery, removed the intake, and I have one coil replaced, 4 spark plugs replaced, and pretty much 4 plug wires replaced. This job is a little tricky because I'm trying to replace parts and do some cleaning along the way, as well as keep track of how everything is routed. So I'm just doing one thing at a time, and I think that approach has worked out well so far. So the next step is to replace this coil and then move on to the rest of the spark plugs and wires. The other coil is in, some more cleaning done, and now I think I will tackle this spark plug and wire. Not too bad. Here's a look down into this #1 cylinder. Overall, it looks pretty good. I don't see any scoring on the cylinder walls. As you can see, there is some carbon buildup on top of the piston, but that is to be expected with a car this old and that has this many miles. I'm going with these NGK plugs. These are the same ones that I used on the ZR1, and I've been pretty happy with them. Since these new coils are quite a bit stronger than stock, I can get away with a wider spark plug gap. So I have these currently set to about 60 thousandths. A little dielectric grease in the spark plug wire boot. All right, the passenger side is pretty much done. The new coil is in, new spark plugs have been gapped and installed, new plug wires have been installed, and this cam cover is about as clean as I'm gonna get it. Here's a look down into the #5 cylinder. Not much to mention here other than it looks like there is a little more carbon buildup on top of this piston than the #1 piston. But overall, things appear to be in good shape. Well, I ended up ripping out everything that I had in place on the passenger side and redoing everything. I may or may not have done that a few times, which was pretty painful and time consuming, but I think the Eagle has landed and I have found the sweet spot for the routing of these wires. What I think is the sweet spot anyway. So check it out. I'm really happy with it. I think they turned out really nice. As I mentioned, I tried many iterations one of which was the factory routing of the wires, and that didn't work out. I just wasn't happy with it or any of the other ways that I tried routing these wires. I think these Ford racing wires might be different lengths than the stock wires. So yeah, looks good. Next steps would be to reinstall these plug wire covers on top of both of the cam covers. And then as I put everything back together, I'm gonna do some more cleaning and I'll show you guys the end result. All done. Everything is back together and looking good. It's not perfect. I still have some cleaning to do around the firewall area, but it's definitely cleaner than it was. Here's a look at all of the old spark plugs. I'm not sure how old they are, but I think overall they look pretty good. The next thing we're going to do in this video is install a short throw shifter. First step is to remove the shift knob. Now I'm going to remove this trim panel. And the boot. As I do this, I am going to disconnect the cigarette lighter. Now I'm going to remove the shifter handle by removing these two 10mm screws. Now I need to remove the lower shifter boot by removing these four 8mm screws. All right, here's a look at the stock shifter. Now all I need to do is remove those four 13mm bolts and it should come out. All right, so now, theoretically, I should be able to pry on the shifter with this big flat blade screwdriver and pop it off. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to hit it with a big hammer. It's coming. There we go. I'll show you the new shifter in a second, but let me first get this bushing out because while I'm in here, I'm going to replace it. Here is the old and here is the new. I went with a Steeda short throw shifter. I got it from Late Model Restoration, and this should give me crisper shifts and it should shorten the shifts by about 1 inch. Here's a new gasket and bushing and hardware. As you can see, there is some play in this stock shifter, and since I've owned this car, I've had a lot of sloppy shifts and even some difficulty getting it into gear, so this would explain that, and I'm excited for that to go away. Here's a look at the stock bushing compared to the new one. The new one is going to be a lot tighter. In goes the new shifter bushing. Now I'm going to take my plastic razor blade and scrape off the rest of the old gasket, and to make sure none of it falls down into the transmission, I'm going to put a towel down in there, and hopefully nothing will fall in. Or if it does, the towel will catch it. All clean. I think that's as good as it's going to get. So now, time to reassemble. Now I need to work on dialing in these shift stops. And what these do is they just prevent you from overextending your shift. Shift stops are dialed in. Here's a washer that prevents the boot from getting pinched. That feels really good. Now let's see how she feels on the road. The ABS light just came on, so that's awesome. I guess I'll have to look into that. After a quick test drive, my overall thoughts on the shifter are that I'm pretty happy with it. It seems to be doing everything that it should be doing. The throws are definitely shorter. It feels more solid than the factory shifter. I'm still having an issue getting into gear on some shifts, so I thought this would help with that, but it hasn't. A buddy of mine said that that could be caused by a bad transmission mount, which makes sense because when I was removing the old shifter and prying on the transmission with my screwdriver, I was pretty surprised at how much it was flexing. So I'll have to look into that more and I will keep you guys posted. I'm also happy with the plugs, wires, and coils. The car seems to be running really smooth. The throttle response seems to be a little better, and the car does seem to have a little bit more get up and go, which is good. Kind of bummed about this ABS light that popped up. That's never happened before. So again, I'll have to look into that. With all of that said, I would say that this was a pretty successful video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and take care. I will see you guys next time.